Though this your boy is Tweez from Mars Boys.
And this your boy Mac. We about to react to the Dr. Umar, Jesse Lee Peterson video.
See what's going on here.
On Fox Soul.
Alright, so we gonna go ahead and get straight to the video. Get to see what's going on. Ain't no need to waste no time.
Let's get to it.
People in our community have been accused of selling out for financial gain, political advantages, and even for something as simple as social media clout. Woohoo! Tonight, the business of being black are sellouts. And who better to have this spirited conversation with than guests that I personally enjoy. Please welcome author and activist Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson. Hi, Reverend Peterson. How you doing?
Hi, Tammy. All is well. Thanks for having me on.
Doctor of Clinical Psychology, Dr. Umar Johnson is with us. Dr. Umar, hey.
Good evening, Queen. Glad to be with you.
And the president of the African History Network, Michael Imhotep. Hi, Michael. How are you tonight?
How you doing, Miss Tammy Mac? Thanks for having me back.
I'm doing absolutely wonderful, and it's lovely to see your face on this show, so thank you.
Thank you.
Why is the question I start with on the Tammy Mac Show every night, and tonight is no different. Why should black people care if they're a sellout or not? I'll give it to you first, Michael.
Why should black people, you're talking about the individual person? Why should they care?
The individual person or black people as in the community?
Well, if we take the community first, the collective, a person who's a sellout will purposely do things that are detrimental to the African American community for personal gain, financial position, what have you, from my basic understanding of sellouts. So I think, and this can be in various forms, so the community has to be concerned because of the damage, the harm that it can do to the collective, to the community. The individual should be concerned because of, one, they are part of a collective. It's not just this individualism that really became popular in the 1980s here in the U.S., this rugged individualism. You're part of a collective. You're part of a whole. You're part of an African village, whether you realize it or not. So I think you have to be concerned about what you contribute to the community, what you contribute to society, what type of energy also you put out into the universe. And then there's a universal law called karma. What goes around comes around.
In reality, there's no such thing as sellout.
Why should black people
Our
care
battle is a
about
spiritual battle. It's a
sellout?
warfare between good and evil. And within the black people, most black people today are in a fallen state. They don't know God. They don't have love. They come from screwed up families, so they're very angry. And in their state of anger, they're very judgmental because they have a big pride about them, which is the nature of Satan. And so when other blacks overcome that fallen state and return to what is right and love what is right and love God with all their heart, soul, and might, and their neighbor as themselves, the blacks who are in a fallen state cannot handle that because they're very judgmental. And what they try to do in their state of evil, they try to keep other black men and women down because they hate good. And if you notice, Tammy, most black people today don't believe in God. Most of them are evil and they hate good. And that's what the primary state is. So they'll blame somebody else for their problems rather than facing them themselves. And you can always tell a man or a woman who is in a fallen state, they blame everybody else for their failures. And most black people are doing that today.
Sellout.
I would say
Dr.
that
Umar.
when you deal with the concept of the sellout, you have to deal with it within the context of post-traumatic slavery disease. I always say that the Negro is one of the greatest creations of the modern era because the Negro is the only organism that will work against its own best interests without being paid to do so. And when we deal with the politics of selling out, we have to recognize that selling out is extremely accepted in the Black community because the Black community has never created a code of conduct for its members. Every other culture, although they are not monolithic, they do not live in a utopia, but they do have a code of conduct. We have never created such a code in the modern era. And because we haven't created a code, a lot of people can ignore the accusation that they have sold out because every person has their own definition, which is based on their own personal commitment to the Black community. So, for example, to Dr. Umar Johnson, if you date outside your race, you're a sellout, because protecting and maintaining the traditional Black family, in my opinion, is something that all of us should be in the business of doing. But for the next person, dating outside of your race may be accepted. Some people would see a Black person worshiping an image of Jesus as a white man as clearly being indicative of selling out. But someone else would say there's nothing wrong with worshiping Jesus in the image of your oppressor. And so we have different levels of commitment to the Black community, and those different levels of commitment, Tammy, dictate how high of a bar we set for one another.
So we don't have a code. We don't, the Black
Or
community.
You feel the
Man,
most.
yeah, I felt both of them what they both were saying, but you know what I'm saying? Like what Reverend Jesse, when he was saying that people, everybody grew up in their own little situation, you feel me?
Right.
And a lot of people these days don't know God, you know what I'm saying? Just be angry for no reason, you feel me? I mean,
So you
unless you getting on people hard enough, there's no fixing that.
right. So he basically was saying it's a war between good and evil. And Dr. Umar saying we ain't.
But someone else would say
Foundation.
there's nothing wrong with worshiping.
Right, so how do you change that? You can't change that. That's like me being around my aunties and my mama, you feel me? And they gonna be them people saying, ain't nothing wrong with you worshiping that Jesus, you feel me? Then you want something different. You can't force people to go
So
to
now you like an evil force to them.
Right.
Because you not, I see what you're doing, but it's like.
So his plan would never work.
Yeah,
You know
it
what
makes
I'm saying?
sense, but it's like it's too late for that.
Yeah, you feel me?
Like people, it's generations on generations.
I agree more with what Jesse was saying. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Right, so,
I forgot exactly what he was saying, but I agree more with what he was
he
saying.
was basically saying Black people was like in a fallen state.
Right.
And something, but that's all I heard. But
The word sellout does exist and that it is used, right?
Yeah, it is used, just like the word racism. We all know that there's no such thing as racism. It's a word that made up to deceive the blind. And so when they use the word sellout, it's meant to divide and conquer. But if you're not in a fallen state, meaning that Satan is not your daddy, you can see the game that's being played. Like Dr. Umar just said, he just spoke as a blind man. He has no idea what he's talking about because there's no such thing as slavery syndrome or whatever he said. Our battle is a spiritual battle. It's either right or wrong, good or evil. And in the good old days when boys were boys and men were men, men knew that and they led their wives and children in the right way to go. And they did have a conduct of morality. They treated everyone they would like in the way that they would like to be treated, never mind the color. They taught their children how to work and be responsible and not blame and whine. And they didn't put it out there as though they couldn't make it. Dr. Umar Johnson just
Well, I
made
don't
up
think we
words.
should, Reverend Jesse, I don't think we should suggest that one person knows more than the other in the sense of you saying you know it all. And
You see, that's a problem too. You feel me? Like what he just said was so true. Dr. Umar just spoke as a blind man. Just
Right.
real shit.
right.
For real, bro. And then look, then she came in and saying that he know more. It's not, he ain't even say that.
Yeah.
He didn't say he knew more. He telling them like what's really how it's supposed to be. That's what we pretty much talk about. You feel me?
Right.
That's crazy.
and anyone else on the panel knows less. That's a little unfair.
Yeah, well, I may not know my flowers, but I know Dr. Umar Johnson is blind and that he's wrong. And he doesn't know God, so he's telling people words, fancy words, in order to deceive them. If you knew that our battle is a battle between good and evil, then you would make up words in order to deceive. You would tell the truth and hope that those who are blind may wake up and see the right way to go. I grew up on a plantation down in Alabama under the Jim Crow law, and back then, black
There
people...
were no slaves on that plantation?
Well, yeah, they had, you know, as a matter of fact, my grandparents' parents ran the plantation, but they weren't slaves when I was growing up. And the point is, black people had a sense of morality then, and they loved what was right. They worked hard. They loved their country. They didn't blame because the men were leading the way.
Hold that thought, Reverend Jesse Umar. Go ahead. I don't want him to bring your name up and not allow you to respond.
It's okay. I had been on Reverend Jesse's show before, and they have been trying diligently to have me come back. And one of the reasons I did not return to the show is because I believe that Jesse Lee Peterson knows better. In fact, he would be a textbook definition of a sellout, because he is the type of black man who will bend over backwards to absolve the American white power structure of any responsibility for what happens to black people. And like many sellouts, they always ignore or they try to retreat away from acknowledging the role that systemic racism plays in the life of black people. Racism is not only about the individual mistreatment of black people, it is about the systemic mistreatment of black people. See, racism is a system that all white people participate in to disadvantage all members of another group. So you don't opt in, you don't opt out. And members of the target group don't opt in or opt out. But what they can do, as Jesse Lee Peterson has so effectively done in his career, is they can identify with the power structure. They can identify with white racism, and they can carve out a niche for themselves by defending the racism that is attacking black people, as opposed to defending black people against that racism. A black man in America who does not stand up for his people and in turn aligns himself with the structure that is eating away at the opportunities of black people can go very far in this country. Senator Tim Scott is an example. Jesse Lee Peterson is an example. And we will continue to create these types of personalities, Sister Tammy, if we don't come up with a code and if the black community doesn't start holding its members accountable for dysfunctional behavior.
We're going to take a quick break and come right back on the Tammy McLeod Show on Fox Soul.
You think it's a such thing as racism? Jesse said it ain't no such thing. So do you think it's a such thing as racism?
I'm not saying that it's not a such thing, because it could be some people in this world that's programmed that way, you know what I'm saying? But do that mean all white people is looking at you like that? It's good white people out here too.
Just look at you like,
you know what I'm saying?
Human being.
Yeah, you feel like a regular human being. Like I said, like you're saying it's a more so spiritual war. Like you could be spiritual brothers with this white person. You know what I'm saying?
So even a white person who believes in racism is going through a spiritual battle.
Right.
They evil too, so it's like it don't matter. You think another race is superior, it don't make sense. Because we all people. But yeah, because Dr. Umar, he always bring up race, you feel?
Right, you just want to go kill all the white people.
It's like black versus white.
Like if you white, lock them up. You know what I'm saying? That's basically what he might as well just say. He might as well be like, okay, if you white, take every white person and throw them in the cell and do what they did to us, to them. Mm-hmm. And what is that going to solve? I mean, yeah, we're going to get some power, but we doing the same thing they did. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But me personally, I think it's deeper than that.
it's some, they got to get off the race because that's all he talk about. He tried to but I don't know though. He might talk. He might say something. Let's see.
Welcome back to the Tammy Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Tonight, the business of being black are sellouts. Are you a sellout? Is there such thing as a sellout? Let's go to the chat and find out.
Absolutely, they exist. I was reading some of Randall Kennedy's work earlier today. Yeah, absolutely, they exist. That's what I was talking about. Those who knowingly, there's a difference between somebody who makes a mistake and doesn't know better. You share information with them, they correct their behavior. There's a difference between that and people who actually knowingly do it to profit economically or what have you, and they don't care about doing harm to African Americans, to the community, what have you. So absolutely, it exists. Now, in this, the other thing is, I think in this whole social media culture, okay, I think in this whole cancel culture also, I think sometimes the term sellout may be used prematurely or something like that. Because we're in this whole cancel culture. A lot of times if somebody says the wrong thing, you just want to cancel them or what have you. So I think you're dealing with that, but dealing with that nuance as well. But oh yeah, absolutely, sellouts exist throughout history. During slavery, after slavery, absolutely sellouts exist.
Why do you think the term is so loaded in the black community?
Well, I think, Dr. Umar hit on something, and, I deal with things like this as well. Because of the history of slavery in this country, African Americans have largely been stripped of African history and culture, things like this. Our culture, and two of my teachers, Dr. Lyndon Jeffries and Professor James Small, and Dr. Umar knows who they are. They talk about how African history and culture gives us our foundation, it gives us our VIPs, our values, our interests, and our principles. And this gives us a cultural paradigm that we see reality through, but this gives us some type of code of conduct, as Dr. Umar was talking about. So when you deal with other ethnic groups in this country, for the most part, they have their history and culture intact to a certain extent, and this gives them that code of conduct he was talking about. That gives them that foundation. Largely for us, it's been taken away from us, and many of us, in various ways, been trying to take back, reclaim certain aspects of it, but we're operating at a deficit, So sellouts definitely exist.
Please break me away from tradition and what I've been taught in the white schools that I've attended that suggest that there was this society in America that wouldn't allow white people and black people to drink from the water fountains. Did the white institutions I attend teach me that wrong, or was that correct? I'm ready to learn from you.
Well, as a matter of fact, when I was growing up, I remember the colors only signs and the whites only signs. But because most black people loved what was right, they loved God, they knew that all white people did not feel that way. It was primarily the white people who belonged to the Democratic Party, and they didn't want blacks to be a part of the Democratic Party. And so that's why the blacks started the Republican Party, because the blacks. So when we dealt with for black only signs, for white only, common sense said it wasn't everybody. It was those who serve evil.
But it was majority of the white people. We can agree with that.
No,
right?
It wasn't the majority of black people. It was a few.
I said majority of the white people.
I'm sorry?
Let's get back on to sellouts.
So basically, he just said the whole racist thing started from politics. The Democratic Party made black people feel like this is wrong. White people, black people. You feel me? Mm-hmm. They put that in order to separate the races. You see what I'm saying? That's why everybody to this day vote.
Like you said, it wasn't everybody. It wasn't all white people.
This thing still recording?
Yeah, it's recording.
That's why they everybody who black vote for Democrats. You feel me? Mm-hmm. He just said black people started the Republican Party.
Right.
I ain't even know that. You feel me? So yeah, I ain't even know black people.
So what president was a Republican?
I mean, we ain't had no black president, but
I'm saying we ain't had no Republican president.
That's black?
Black, white?
Yeah, we had. Trump was a Republican.
Oh, for real?
Mm-hmm. And Bush. Everybody that they tell us not to like was Republican. But Obama and Clinton, and they Democrats.
Mm.
Everybody they tell us to vote for. So.
What about this new dude? He a Democrat?
Oh yeah, Biden. Yeah, he was Obama vice president.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So they saying that he just said the Democrat Party is the reason why we got racism.
Right.
It ain't really the people.
And we voting for Democrat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It don't make no sense.
So yeah.
That's why I said I would
And
vote
see,
for
she
Trump.
switched. She switched it up real quick. She said, "All right, let's go back to the sellouts," because he made a lot of sense right there.
Mm-hmm.
She ain't expect him to go that. Like he just put the whole Democratic, and she knows she a Democrat. She fuck with Michelle Obama and, you know.
Right, like, yeah, this nigga
Yeah.
talking too much.
Yeah.
She wanted to shut him up real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Umar looking.
Dr. Umar.
Yes, ma'am, and I would like to respond to him if I may, Sister
And it
Tammy.
wasn't a majority of whites.
Thank you. Go ahead,
I
Dr.
want to clarify something when we talk about
It
racism.
wasn't all white people.
Racism is not an individual personality fault.
It doesn't
Of white
exist,
people.
man.
Racism is not about individual personality. Racism is about systemic injustice, systemic bias, systemic disproportionality, systemic discrimination. You do not opt out of
That is
racism.
dumb.
All white people benefit from and participate in racism. So whether your ancestors owned black people or not is irrelevant. And the reason it is irrelevant, Sister Tammy, is because even if your ancestors didn't own black people, they worked at a job that was created because of the enslavement of black people. So there's no such thing as slavery did not impact my family. Just like in today's America, all white people benefit from the mass incarceration of black people. They benefit from the miseducation of black children. They benefit from the police brutality against black people. So I want to make sure we are clear.
What you're saying
Racism is not about individual white people
But what you're
choosing to
saying
hate
is a
blacks.
lot.
Racism is about the system of racism
That's a
that
lie.
controls opportunities and resources, Sister Tammy. Racism is not about the attitude. It's about the control of resources and opportunities.
Tammy, that is not true. This is why we have to, we must get to know ourselves so that we can overcome that fallen state. Dr. Umar is evil for putting out a lie like that or lies like that because people are going to believe
Well,
in
let's
it.
refrain from calling people names.
Okay,
Reverend
but
Jesse.
he's not telling the truth.
We have to refrain, Sister Tammy, but at the same time,
He is
I
evil.
think it's important that we understand that.
I do agree with that too. I'm not saying he's evil, but you see how mad he is? Look at his face.
Yeah.
Like, how are you that mad? I mean, because I guarantee you, Dr. Umar Johnson is doing better than me and you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, whatever affecting black people or people in general, it's you definitely is not affecting you as much as it's affecting us.
Yeah, and we ain't even that evil.
You know what I'm saying? But he's like he's super angry on there, like he ready to jump on and kill him.
And
Look
plus-
at his face.
And Jesse, he know how to he be pressing people's buttons and cause I be watching his show sometimes, so he calling them evil because he want the evil to come out.
It's coming out for sure. It's definitely coming out.
The difference between the Negro and the
That's what he
coon.
wants
Sister
on his
Tammy, this
show.
is a very important distinction that has to be made. The Negro
What the-
is innocent in his ignorance, Sister Tammy. As Brother Michael said earlier, some people make mistakes against the race unknowingly. If you make a mistake against the race unknowingly, that was a Negro. Negroes are innocent. They think white people are more intelligent. They think Jesus is black because they haven't been taught any better. But a coon knows better. But the coon voluntarily identifies with his oppressor because there is an agenda that he's looking to get filled. And the sad thing about Jesse Lee Peterson is he is too old to be Cooning at this point in his life. And the fact that he claims to be a man of God doing the devil's work makes him a total hypocrite.
But Tammy, you know what I just want to add to that? To hear Dr. Umar and the other man to speak this way.
That's Michael.
Is Michael, sorry. To hear Michael and Dr. Umar speak this way is abnormal for men. Normally men, when I was growing up, they had logical mindset. But today's black man has an illogical mindset because he thinks like a woman. He has not overcome the spirit of the woman and returned to the logical
there
mindset.
There is nothing more effeminate than a white man defending a white power structure against black people. There is nothing more effeminate than a black man defending a white power structure against black people.
Why are you speaking? Hold on.
You are politically effeminate.
Illogical in their mind.
You are politically
and
effeminate.
Women are illogical.
You are
in their
politically
mindset, right?
effeminate.
Why are
you are defending the white power structure against your own people while you claim to be a man of God. You are a disgrace to your race, sir. You are a disgrace to your race.
And so normally the men with the logical mindset would bring the women and children to a logical mindset to help them to overcome. But now the black men, not all but most, they think like their mothers and grandmothers, so they all think just like women, and that's why you can't get it right.
So indicting racism
there's
makes
an
you
order
a woman.
To God, and that order is God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children.
I'm not interested in the religious interpretation of racism.
Today's black woman is over the men. And
it is a mistake to use religion to interpret political phenomena.
That's why
we're going to take a quick break and we'll come right back on the Tammy Mack Radio on Fox Soul. Let's take a quick break. We'll come right back.
Oh man, but that might be true though, bro.
Wiggy John.
You see how he yelling and
yeah, you know, I'm trying to overtalk him. That's what a woman do. And you see how calm he is. He's like, hey, just hold on. Then go right back to telling us what's going on. You feel me? In a calm voice though.
Right, he yelling.
Like, man, niggas be yelling and all this crazy stuff.
See, the thing is, he's saying, like, the reason why black people so angry is because of racism. You see what I'm saying? If they didn't, like, tell us to fight back, we wouldn't be mad today. We probably weren't mad before. You feel me? But that's crazy, though. Not saying, like, it was different, like, I know people, like, was in slavery and, like, was slaves for real, but it was probably, like, just a job, you feel me? Until people told them, like, but it's still slaves to this day. I go to work, I'm a slave. They got my ID, my social, everything. You know, they just ain't whooping my ass, but they mentally whooping my ass, you feel me? Got social security numbers.
Good boy.
Yeah.
Like I said.
We all came dressed like this. I know you can't really tell, but it's kind of a pajama party. I got on this
I see why though. Now that I look at it.
Welcome back to the Tammy Mack Late Show on Fox Soul, where tonight the business of being black are sellouts. Joining me, I was just looking at a video of the comedian Monique kind of explaining an interview between she and comedian Steve Harvey. And I think somewhere in that interview, Steve Harvey said, this is not about black or white, this is about green. And Monique said, and that's what I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna lose my integrity for the green. When Steve Harvey went to visit President Trump, the black community turned on him slightly. He got him back, but they definitely turned on him for making that visit to the president. Why? Why? It would seem to me that if there is a president of the United States and you want him to do some things that are beneficial to your community, you would have to visit him at the least, right? Why was the black community so upset, and did that make Steve Harvey a sellout?
Well, here's the thing. I think I remember the conversation between Steve Harvey and Monique, and I can understand Monique saying, "I don't want to give up my integrity for the money," because in Hollywood or as some people call it, highly weird. You have a lot of people who are willing to give up their integrity for the dollar and do anything for the dollar. So I can understand that from Monique's perspective. It's tricky when you see what's interesting is that at the time that Steve Harvey, and I respect Steve Harvey, at the time Steve Harvey went to visit with Trump was, when it came to the African American community, Trump wasn't meeting with politicians. He wasn't meeting with people coming with agendas for the African American community in general. He's meeting with entertainers, okay? And I think Steve Harvey may have meant well, but I wouldn't have gone unless I'm going with a group with an agenda, pushing policies, pushing issues to benefit the African American community. So
earlier we was talking about somebody coming, all right, in the studio, they want to record, right? You feel me? And they just come over here and just put that song on for me, bro. You feel me? Instead of just going over there and like how we was just chilling in the front room. You feel me? And just chilling, not even thinking about the studio. You know what I'm saying? Knowing you can come in here and record the studio here. You feel me? So that's basically what he just said with that. Like, why he wouldn't have went and just chilled with Trump without going with a team of niggas ready to ask him for something.
Looking threatening and making it awkward. And
you feel me?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, motherfuckers come over here with an agenda just to come right in this bed, do the song, pull that song up, and redo that. You feel me?
You feel me?
Like, damn, nigga. What up, nigga? Nigga come over here with an agenda. Yeah,
ready to work you, nigga.
Yeah, these people, man, that's what's wrong with like people like these niggas like this. They be thinking like it's all about, instead of just living life.
You feel me?
Like,
you wouldn't have win. This is the president of the United States. You wouldn't have win just to kick it with him? I mean, come on now, man. You got to go in there with bodyguards
9
and
times out of
everybody.
10, he knew Trump before he got president, because Trump was already a celebrity.
Right. So now you knew this nigga. Now you can't come over here because he got some money.
Yeah.
You can't come without even asking.
I bet you if Trump was a Democrat, it would have been the problem.
Right.
Because he was a Republican.
You got to come in here and ask.
I bet you Steve Harvey met Obama too.
Right.
They ain't say, oh, did you get him an agenda? Nah, he probably just came to chill with him too. It just, some people, it's about that Republican shit.
Is not a politician. I have not known him to be involved in politics in the past. He may have.
But Kim Kardashian, and she visited and got things done.
Well, see, here's the thing. People mention Kim Kardashian, but they don't mention the 2 African-American female attorneys behind her who were doing the work, who were doing the legal work. See, she Trump wanted a photo op with her. It was 2 African-American women who are attorneys doing the legal work, okay? They were the ones doing the groundwork, the grunt work. So oftentimes when they talk about a Kim Kardashian and you see the photo in the White House with Trump and things like this, they leave the sisters out who are really doing the work, who are the attorneys.
Well, I think I'm speaking specifically of the optics of it all. It seemed as if Kim Kardashian could go to Trump and ask for some things and get it done. And perhaps it was part of the tactic to have the 2 black girls not really be recognized in order to make the accomplishment. I don't know the answer to that.
So what would she got some commutations. Alice Johnson was one of them.
Right.
Got a commutation for, right? Okay, we're happy that she got out.
But she was never considered a sellout. Steve Harvey was.
Right. Well, who, you mean Kim Kardashian was never considered a sellout?
Right.
Well, she's white. Kim Kardashian is white. Last time I checked, I know she likes black men, but she's white.
Well, she's definitely not black. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not gonna call her a sellout. No. But I think I saw an interview that Steve Harvey did with D.L. Hughley, and he said if he had known the type of backlash he was going to get, he would not have gone to meet with Trump. And also the backlash his family received. Okay, but once again, if you're going to go meet with somebody like that, Trump, whoever, you're going to meet with that, you don't want to go as an individual. You want to go with a group that has an agenda. to empower African Americans, as opposed to, because Trump likes to be seen with black entertainers, black hip hop artists. Okay, his name was mentioned. I can't remember, something like 100 times or 200 times over the course of 20 years, something like that, in hip hop songs. Okay, so Trump liked to be around that. All right, and use those photo ops. So we have to be smarter than that.
Dr. Umar, Michael says he wouldn't have visited Trump. I'm curious to know, would you have?
Yes, I would have. It is important that we as African people always speak truth to power when given an opportunity. I didn't have an issue with black people meeting with President Trump, but what I did have an issue with, as Brother Michael is saying, is who we allowed to meet with President Trump. Steve Harvey has no history of political activism in the black community. Steve Harvey has no history of speaking up to the white power structure on behalf of black people. So although I would have had no problem with a black activist or organizer meeting with President Trump, I did have a problem with black celebrities meeting with President Trump. That was the issue. And
Would
as
you
it relates
consider them sellouts?
Say that again.
Would you consider them sellouts?
Who?
Steve Harvey and there's another one I'm thinking of. But
I wouldn't consider Steve Harvey a sellout as strictly as I would consider a Shaquille O'Neal, a Charles Barkley, and a Kendrick Perkins sellout. And the reason I'm drawing a distinction is whenever Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, and Kendrick Perkins open their mouth on issues involving black people, they always take the side of the white power structure. Whereas with Steve Harvey, I have seen some attempts by him to defend the integrity of black people. It's not often. I'm not even going to say it's acceptable, but there is levels to the coon kingdom. There's levels to the coon kingdom. So even though they are all sellouts, you have your grade A coons like Jesse Lee Peterson and Charles Barkley. And then you have your grade B coons, which will be like a Kendrick Perkins and a Shaq. And then you have your grade C coons, which would be like a Steve Harvey. So there's levels to the coon kingdom. Say again.
But you do put him in the coon kingdom.
I would put Steve Harvey in the coon kingdom, but he wouldn't be grade A like Jesse Lee Peterson and Charles Barkley. And the other thing I wanted to say quickly, Tammy, with Kim Kardashian, that was a perfect example of racism on the part of the white power structure who says, I would rather hear a white woman articulate the issues of incarcerated black females. Now you have hundreds of black women who fight for the liberation of incarcerated sisters every day. I can run off organizations all day long, but instead of meeting with black women who are in the trenches doing the work, we are instead going to let a privileged white woman articulate the issues for black people. And Sister Tammy, that was dangerous that black women supported Kim Kardashian being their mouthpiece, because what it does is it reinforces an old stereotype that black people are not intellectually sound enough to articulate their own issues and that they need a white person to do it. We should never celebrate a white person being selected to represent our issues. It should always be someone who looks like us.
That should be a part of the code.
That should be part of the code.
Go ahead, Michael. Jesse, we're coming right to you. Go ahead, Michael.
Just a quick clarification. I didn't say I wouldn't go to meet with Trump. I said I wouldn't go by myself. I will go with a group of people a group of African Americans who have a political agenda, who have an agenda to get something for our people. I wouldn't just go by myself, and I wouldn't go for a photo op.
Absolutely. Reverend Jesse.
Yes.
You're a part of the coon kingdom, he says.
That's right. You know, you just heard the voice of a beta male. That makes no sense in what the doctor said and what Michael said. It's sad to see that most black people believe that they're all the same because of their color. They're not looking at their true self. They are a spirit created in the image of God. And they don't know that. They're going by colors. And so they're all in the same pot, headed down to the road to destruction.
Jesse, I want to ask you.
Donald Trump was the best thing that ever happened to black Americans, because Donald Trump did not see colors. He saw colors, but he wasn't into the color thing. He was into what is right. And that's why he was able to help black people more so than any other president that we have had in the last, I don't know how many years, right? Obama was the worst, by the way, but Donald Trump was the best. I call him the great white hope because he made America great again. Black people went to work. They started buying homes and starting families and things like that because of Donald Trump. But these people like Dr. Umar and Michael, they're into their color. They're in a fallen state. They're weak males and they cannot see. They can't see that Donald Trump was a man of God. He was a conservative, Christian, straight white man who loved what's right. And he wasn't into the color. That's why Kanye West and other black men and women who met with the president, they respected him because he was not into color. He gave black universities more money than anybody else, and all they did was misuse it. He did more to help the blacks than anyone else.
We're going to take a quick break and come right back on the Tammy McAlea Show. On Fox
Niggas
Soul.
ain't even saying he know he didn't. Like, damn, he did.
I'm just like, oh
Forgot
my
about
God.
that.
Thinking about it, man. Shit.
It's going on.
Later with Leon.
I need some counseling.
I never want to train bra. When I was 8, I wanted a bra, grown people bra.
Every Monday night, 9 p.m.
They
Eastern,
fucked up
6
getting Donald Trump out there. I said that from the beginning, bro. I don't know why. I always liked Donald Trump.
on Fox
Like,
Soul.
he was real. You feel me? All these other people want to be fake. Come on now. You look at Biden, you know he don't like black people. Come on, man.
Like, everything's about an agenda.
Right.
Let's do it responsibly. Before going out, check for
Even
closures and
Obama,
fire
like,
restrictions.
since they got out of office,
Practice
we
social
heard nothing
distancing,
about them.
even when outside and on the trail. Back at
Yeah.
home with burning yard debris, keep your piles small.
Why we so
No
happy?
matter where you are, be sure
Black
to properly extinguish
color,
any
huh?
outdoor fire. Drown, stir, drown, feel. We're all in this together. Help keep our safe places safe.
He be saying some shit though. Like, you can tell when he be trying to get under people's skin though.
I do believe that a male not really supposed to be yelling like that. You feel?
Yeah, that's him having evil in him.
Did you know dragging
Yeah.
chains can spark a wildfire?
He said when you become a man of God, you ain't mad no more. You feel me?
Snoop Dogg teases.
And that's how I was looking at Bone yesterday, the other day. He was telling, he's like, he just
TGIF.
mad. Like, why you so mad? You feel me? Like, even if that did happen, you seem like mad as hell.
Every Friday night.
You can just look at Obama and you know he gets down.
He was like, man, Snoop, what you got?
On Fox Soul.
I can hear them old senators now. And Obama was smoking reefer with the rapper.
I ain't never even heard her damn show.
Welcome back to the McAlea Show on Fox Soul. Tonight, the business of being black
The crib,
is
you feel me?
sell out. Sell out. I want to take something really, really basic and ask if it's a sellout perspective. Working for a white company, is that a sellout perspective, Michael?
Can I address what I was going to say before the break right quick? Go to that question. So a lot of people like to talk about the money that they say Donald Trump gave the HBCUs. Okay, that was Representative Umar Adams' bill. Okay, that bill passed, but another black woman that doesn't get credit. White people take the credit for what she did.
Stop
That bill
worshiping
passed.
the black woman, man.
That bill passed the House of Representatives. That bill, please, sir, don't interrupt. I didn't.
Don't make
That bill passed the House of Representatives. It passed the U.S. Senate. It had a veto-proof majority in both the House and the Senate, which means even if Trump vetoed the bill, the Congress would have overrode his veto and it still would have become law. Okay, so some people want to give Trump all the credit for that. That was her bill, and she gets no credit for it.
Partisan bill, it was going to pass through anyway.
But it was her bill that Trump believed in,
majority, so
bro.
regardless of
Yeah,
what
you
you
couldn't
do,
go
You know what I'm
without
saying?
it.
Right.
She can't just do it
going to
herself.
work for white people. I've worked for white corporations. I
A
worked
white person helped her get it through.
somebody
you know?
who's trying to take care of their family. be responsible, take care of their family. If they work for a white corporation, or a white company or something like that, I don't look at them and say you're a sellout because you work for a white company. Now, if they are, I don't want to use certain terms, if they are putting on a minstrel show at work, see, that's something different. Okay, you can work for a white company but not put on a minstrel show. Yeah, but just because somebody works for a white corporation, the other thing is, when we look at these corporations, General Motors, I live here in Detroit. Lived in Detroit almost 50 years, 15 General Motors, Ford, Chrysler. The money we spent on GM cars, all that stuff, we paid for all those jobs. So as far as I'm concerned, we should have jobs at all different levels of these companies that we spend money with, but bring that money back to the African American.
You guys need to stop begging, man.
And bring that money back to the please, sir, don't interrupt.
Talk about
bring
Yield, Jesse.
Michael, stop begging.
bring that money back to the African
Stop
American.
begging, Michael.
And you use that money to help empower African American.
Because he bought a fucking car. Because he bought a car, he feel like since we done bought all these cars from them, they should give us something.
I'm back on you.
Stop begging, Michael. One man,
I'm not begging.
I'm not begging. Happen. They don't beg. They don't beg.
Jesse, you wouldn't know a man if you met one.
They don't want reparations. They made their way. The black man when I was growing up, they made their way. They didn't beg the white man for anything because they didn't.
It's not begging white people. Wait a second.
White men were superior.
If you go back to if you look at the Homestead Act of 1862, that was a massive land giveaway of 245 million acres of land that mostly went for white people. Okay, if you want to talk about how white people got over in this country, it's by stealing the land, allocating the land, enslaving Africans for 246 years, passed a law that disenfranchised us, locked us out of voting. Then after the Civil War and after Reconstruction, because I always noticed black conservatives.
Somebody holding on to a lot of stuff.
It's like
you did this, but that was the past. Like I'm trying not though. You know what I'm saying?
You're making excuses.
You ain't out here homeless nigga.
You saw females.
I know you came into your show. Two things that black Republicans don't want to talk, and I'm not against black Republicans, I have friends that are black Republicans. You don't want to talk about the compromise of 1877, which was the compromise between the Republicans and the Democrats, and the Republicans agreed to remove the Union troops out of the South that reinstituted the Jim Crow laws, and the Union troops were protecting the rights of the new free slaves to a certain extent. Because that's what the Democrats wanted. And you don't want to talk about the Lily White movement in 1928, which was the effort of Republicans to push African Americans out of the Republican Party and get Herbert Hoover elected.
Man, he's saying a lot.
Now, you want to have that conversation, you can have that conversation, it's not going to turn out the way you think it's going to.
Michael, it's time to stop asking for freebies. I understand the women doing that because
you ever studied the Farmers Home Association in 1930?
I understand why women are doing it, but
you want to talk about the $26 billion that white farmers got from the Trump administration and black farmers got 0.1% freebies?
Michael, I understand the women doing
Jesse,
that
that is a good question. That is,
you never want to deal with that.
Jesse, that is a good question. So let's answer that question. You say that black people want freebies, but Michael just talked about a huge freebie for the white farmers. Are we not gonna? We're just gonna gloss past that?
There were black farmers who got money too.
They got 1/10 of 1% or $26 billion. Hold on. They got 1/10 of 1% of $26 billion. They got $20.8 million.
Tammy, as I was saying, there were black people who received the money too, and what Michael was talking about happened over 100 years ago or so. And those things, those days will be behind us.
That just happened last year, Reverend Jesse. Where you been?
There were black people who received it last year too, but you're not hearing about that. But what I want to tell you, it's time out for black people to stop begging. I'm sick of it. We can make our own way. Black people can make their own way if they get up and do it. That's why we have to overcome this cultural thing. Because blacks who are into their culture, they think that all blacks are just like them, begging and blaming and whining and talking about 150 years ago and all that. Why not live now? The blacks didn't do that when I was growing up, especially black men. They need to stop begging for freebies. America is an amazing place, right? And whatever you want to do in this country, you can do it. You can make
Hold
it.
that thought. Okay, yeah, that is true. That is so true. I'll have to agree with you on that, Reverend
Let that
Jesse.
shit go.
Whatever you want to do in this country, you can do.
Yeah.
Dr. Umar, earlier you talked about, black men shouldn't date
Umar
white
like, nigga,
women.
this my
Frederick
hustle. I ain't
Douglass was
stopping
labeled
shit.
a turncoat by many
You
African
feel me?
Americans because he married a white
Donations he
woman.
done got,
He
man.
was also criticized for his willingness to work with slave owners to seek a peaceful end to slavery. So what are your thoughts on that? Was Frederick Douglass a sellout?
Let me take the second point first, that Frederick Douglass was willing to work with slave owners to bring a peaceful close to slavery. That is incorrect. Frederick Douglass had always maintained that slavery would not end except with blood. If there was any collaboration with slave owners, it was in discussion, because Frederick Douglass at one time worked with William Lloyd Garrison, who used moral persuasion as the primary weapon to end slavery. Frederick Douglass fell out with him because he knew that trying to convince white people that owning black people was morally wrong was not going to end the institution of slavery. So whoever made that comment was incorrect. Now let's go to the first point, that his second wife was a white woman who he married at a very old age. Was it acceptable? Not to me at all. But what bothers me, and what I do consider to be another act of racism and discrimination against black women, is the fact that Anna Marie Douglass, who is the mother of all 5 of his children, and his wife for nearly 50 years until she died of illness, who helped him escape from slavery to freedom, who came up with the escape plan, who made the escape outfit, who created the false free slave paper that he used to pass from Maryland through Pennsylvania and up to New York, she never gets mentioned. She never gets mentioned. We always skip over Anna Marie Douglass, his lifetime partner, for the white woman who he married just a few years away from the grave himself. I don't accept it.
Important.
I don't accept it, Sister Tammy, but can we please
Man,
show
I'm just
respect
thinking,
to Queen Mother Anna
how
Marie
knowing that
Douglass?
is
She
gonna help us
entitled
today.
to respect, and black people have to
Yeah,
stop skipping over
okay,
his real wife for
That's what I'm saying.
the
A lot
last
of black
years
people
of his
stay in the
life.
past too much.
Kevin, let me tell you this about the black farmers.
So do you think?
Farmers are getting a huge freebie from the USDA today, right? According to the Washington Post, $5 billion of Biden's stimulus package is going to benefit black farmers, but they still going to be begging. It's not going to satisfy them, because it's not the lack of material things that blacks are having a problem with. It's the lack of moral character. Blacks are immoral, not all but most. And
We're going to
until
take a
I come
quick
back to
break.
that-
We'll come right back on the Tammy McLeod Show on Fox Soul.
It's like,
I'm just like, oh my God, my
so he
third
basically
grade
saying
what the hell
all that shit is the
going
hustle for them.
on?
Later
That's
with
their
Leon.
job.
I need some counseling.
Dr. Umar speaking all these big words.
Yeah, talking about
It's
the
Every
past
Monday
and Frederick
night, 9 p.m.
Douglass.
Eastern,
And
6 p.m. Pacific.
Me and my mother probably
so
was playing
it's
the
like,
same part when
okay,
I was 8.
that's good that you know that,
Fox
but
Soul.
Oh yeah, me and my mama.
how's,
Half of us don't know that, so it's how's it affecting us?
yeah, like, how's that gonna help us
145 over 92.
be better people? That's making us
killer
mad. You feel me?
Right.
The more you keep bringing up,
Pressure numbers could change your life.
you feel that's like somebody telling you about your great grandmother. You feel me?
Blood pressure could
Before you knew that, you probably didn't have that. But now you like, damn, white people did that to my great grandma. I hate white people. You feel me? Like, somebody keep telling you that over and over and over every year. You like keep hearing it. So you gonna be programmed to hate a certain race.
Anytime they're playing music downstairs,
Pretty
it's
sure,
loud.
like-
I go downstairs, see what they doing, see what music they doing,
But
see what they dancing
that was, I ain't saying that was right. That was
Piano
wrong. But
downstairs, they
shit,
come get involved. Leah has a drum set
Some
beside
people
it,
just-
banging that.
can't get over it.
But any music, that's what they do.
That's why motherfuckers can't.
The new book as well that Dr. Umar Johnson, Dr.
Hustle.
Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson,
This
I know
whole
you
day
have a
for
lot
the whole
going
year.
on. Tell us about your book, The Antidote Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood. Where can we get it?
Well, for 31 years, I started an organization called BOND, the Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny, and we are rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man, turning men and women back to God. And we tutor, we counsel. I have a daily radio show, podcast show at JesseLeePeterson.com, and they can check out the nonprofit at rebuildingtheman.com, rebuildingtheman.com. And we are having our Bond Men's Conference down in Orlando, Florida, and August 14th for men only. So people can go to rebuildingtheman.com and check that out. The book, The Antidote, Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood. And I write about what happens if you don't have a father to guide you. And I write about Barack Obama, Jesse Jackson, and all those guys. And one thing they had in common, and they had no fathers, so they grew up angry. They grew up without the image of their father, but the image of their mothers, and that's why they don't know how to guide men and women in the right way to go. It is an amazing book. It tells you how to overcome. You can go to rebuildingtheman.com or call 800-411-2663, 800-411-BOND, B-O-N-D. And I started an entrepreneur academy where we were showing young men how to start businesses, and it's amazing. And I had to start a credit union because a lot of these guys, their credit was destroyed by their mothers when they were growing up, so they couldn't get credit.
Ooh, okay, I gotta stop you there. We're running out of time.
Okay, check out
my credit was destroyed by my father. Let me just put it there. Let me put that out there. And by the way, I have perfect credit right now as a woman. So let me put.
Yeah, it seems like she trying to bash him. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see, he was just telling all that good information, and she interrupting him. Like, yeah, you doing too much. You know what I'm saying? And then she had to throw in, she had to bash her father. You know what I'm saying? Her credit was messed up by her father, and she doing good as a woman. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
Talking about helping people how to start a business.
Put that out there.
Right. She just.
Too. I want to thank Dr. Umar Johnson, and I want to thank Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson and also Michael Imhotep for joining me tonight on the Tammy Mac Late Show. Until tomorrow, everybody, it's a blessing to be in your lives. Bye, y'all.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
He said I got something just for all men, no women allowed. You hear me? Yeah, check out the next video. Yeah, review time.
So make sure y'all like and subscribe this video and comment. Let us know y'all thoughts on the video and if we should keep making them. You know.
Yeah. Well, we gonna keep making.
Right, we gonna keep making them anyway. But let us know y'all thoughts on that and how y'all feel about what they saying and everything we saying. You know what I'm saying?